Well, just like Jeffrey said, we will be looking at the economic consequences or the implications of what has happened in Tunisia on tomorrow's edition of the program. That's as regards what's going to happen and what's happening to Tunisia's economy. But for now, we just like to bring you a reminder of what we looked at, or what we started to look at on Friday. We mentioned on Friday that the Al Jazeera journalists are not the only ones who've been having a hard time in Egypt. It appears as though the government is having a crackdown on the press generally. Now, based on a report that was released by the Committee to Protect Journalists, we understand that many journalists have been detained, some for which no reason has been given, and some for being anti-state. Now, we were joined by Mr. Sharif Mansour, who is the CPJ's Middle East and North Africa Programs Coordinator, and he joins us again on the program right now. Mr. Mansour, thank you very much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. Now, I'd just like to get straight to the point. We're not able to finish on Friday, but based on the studies this Committee to Protect Journalists has carried out, what do we need to see in place in order to protect the freedom of the press?
A lot of things. Immediately, those journalists need to be freed. The majority of them can benefit from a presidential decree pardoning them from those politically motivated charges. And the rest can be freed immediately because they are not held on official charges. Many of them have not had a chance even to defend themselves. And on the midterm, there are a lot of things that can happen in order to reverse the trend on the press freedom repression that we saw under Al-Sisi. That includes, for example, changing some of the laws that has been used and abused to go after journalists, including the anti-press law that the government have used to round up a lot of citizens, including demonstrators, human rights activists, and journalists, and kept in pre-trial detentions for extended period of time without a chance to defend themselves. The other thing is also the government on the longer term need to look through a lot of the press laws, including more than 72 articles in 8 different laws that the government have used in the past and continue to use to this day to criminalize some journalism work, legitimate journalism work. That includes, insult charges, and includes criminal defamation charges, and even includes high fines and censorship efforts that the government have done in order to shut down and control the internet when it needed to.
Well, was there at some point in who is going to review these press laws, basically, especially in Egypt? Because I know from your report that that's where we're seeing most of these abuse of the press coming from. So in the event that the government does not review anything, what happens next?
Well, President Al-Sisi have legislative powers, and he have used it to pass a lot of laws, majority of whom were against the press and were on the wrong track in terms of implementing a lot of the press guarantees that a lot of the legislators in the Constitution Committee managed to pass and were ratified with a referendum by a majority of Egyptians last year. These guarantees in terms of press freedoms were much better from the constitution before that passed under President Mohamed Morsi, and much better than the constitution that President Mubarak have used. But those have not materialized yet, and the answer was, yes, we need to wait for the new parliament in order to legislate or amend those laws. But President Sisi is not waiting for the new parliament to pass a lot of those oppressive laws and has not actually taking the constitution in consideration in issuing those extreme and repressive laws that was used against the press. The only thing that remains outside the government right now is to hope for the journalist community inside Egypt, including the journalist syndicate, which recently elected critical journalists to the leadership, to push for those amendments, mobilize journalists inside and outside Egypt in order to pressure the government, and also the work of human rights organizations, including
the CPJ. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mansour. It's been a pleasure, as always. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on that report. We're always grateful. And that's where we draw the curtains on this episode of Network Africa. Many thanks for watching. You can send us any of your feedback either via email or Twitter. The address and handle are right there on your screen. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cynthia Aren.